What scientists paid the ultimate price for their work? Peter Spurring. He inventor of FM radio. In the world of inventors, the name Edwin Howard Armstrong is one that remains tucked away in a dark corner, known by few. It is, then, a terrible irony that he invented something that went on to have global impact: FM radio. The invention of his magnum opus proved to be both a blessing and a curse. Armstrong's project was backed by his longtime friend and head of RCA, David Sarnoff. However, when Armstrong presented his finished product to Sarnoff, he was unimpressed due to its complexity. Edwin later returned with a streamlined offering, but Sarnoff's mind was made up. He told Armstrong to remove his equipment, and that was the end of it. However, the inventor didn't give up. He took his technology to the Federal Communications Commission, impressing them with a demonstration, and who eventually decided to create a commercial FM service. And thus, the radio wars began. Sarnoff realized that Armstrong's invention was quickly becoming a threat to his company. Its increasing popularity was weakening RCA's stranglehold on the world of American radio, and so he moved to act. At first, RCA approached Armstrong and made him an offer: $1 million, $21 million in today's money, in exchange for a royalty-free license to use his FM patents. Armstrong refused, feeling it would have been unfair to other licensed companies who had to pay 2% royalties for their sales. The furious RCA boss set his mind to sabotaging his old friend. He lobbied the FCC to move their FM broadcasts to another band, cutting off 500,000 FM listeners in a stroke. They created their own FM patents, which they claimed were non-infringing. Armstrong sent the above photo of himself on RCA's 115-foot tower to Sarnoff, leading to him banning Edwin from RCA. RCA's patents led to a grueling court battle that lasted years, which inevitably took its toll on Armstrong. Not just him either. You see, he was married. The inventor would won Esther Marion McInnes in the early 1920s, scaling high towers for her, driving around in sports cars, and gifting her the first portable radio. Edwin and Marion with the first portable radio. The spark in their marriage progressively dimmed as the legal battle marked year after year, until the couple were left penniless and at their wits' end. Their mental health deteriorated to the point that Marion threw herself into a river and spent a spell in a mental hospital. During one frantic argument, Edwin grabbed a poker and swung it at her arm. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. She packed her things and left. 3 months after their separation, Armstrong wrote a 2-page letter to his wife. He expressed his deep regret about having hurt her, and his sorrow about never being able to see his most beloved ever again. He finished the letter. God keep you and Lord have mercy on my soul. Then, he got up and put on his gloves, hat, and overcoat. He walked over to the window of his 13th floor apartment, stepped onto the ledge and jumped. His legacy is obvious, though he died long before it came to fruition. By the 1980s, countries from the USA to Australia had largely switched from AM to FM for both its improved quality and cheaper cost. Marion chose to continue the legal fight and eventually won against companies like RCA and Motorola, establishing Edwin as FM's inventor. She established awards to honor her husband's name and named the Armstrong Memorial Research Foundation after him. On September 11, New York used the tower that he'd built as a temporary transmitter for their television stations too. 52K views. View 1,867 upvotes. Michael Bross. This man, George Robert Price, couldn't live with the consequences of the mathematical equation that bears his name. Unable to reconcile the implications of his work, he committed suicide at age 52 in 1975. George Price was originally a chemist with a flair for mathematics who worked on uranium analysis at the Manhattan Project. After World War II, he did medical research, worked as a technical writer debunking extrasensory perception, among other things science and the supernatural, and then 5 years working for IBM. He came to biology as an amateur at age 44 after he had moved to the UK in 1967. While there, he turned from being an ardent atheist to a committed Christian following a personal religious experience. In his readings, he came across Hamilton's paper on kin selection, which proposed an equation that specified the parameters by which certain, genetically based, traits are more favored to propagate than others. The so-called Hamilton Rule, 1964, was intended to explain the genetic basis of altruism and states that B/C greater than R or R greater than C/B, where B stands for benefit, C is the cost to the altruist, and R is the degree of relatedness. Price expanded on this equation so that included all traits, including negative altruism, where an individual will sacrifice members of the same species to favor those with closer, shared genes of that individual. This is the Price equation. What was unsettling to Price was that his equation provided a genetic basis for both human idealism, altruism, but that it also included spiteful and aggressive, destructive behaviors. That we have evolved to be just as passionate about love as to hate in the same manner was incompatible with his commitment to his Christian beliefs. There is no foresight, no divine direction, in favoring one or the other, just the one that profits the propagation of genes will be favored. This implication depressed Price deeply. In an attempt to disprove his own equation, Price practiced the teaching from the New Testament, "Sell all you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven." From there on, his life spiraled downward. He gave upon all material things, helped the homeless, left his comfortable flat in London and bunked on the floor of the lab at University College in Bloomsbury. In the end, he was squatting near Euston Station, where one night he killed himself by cutting his carotid artery with nail scissors. At his funeral, the preacher remarked, "The trouble with George was that he took his Christianity too seriously." 249.3K views. View 3,792 upvotes.